very good afternoon to you all. This is the Ambassador. With me, your Ambassador, Jennifer McCarno. Our first story is going to come from Sudan. A Sudan government has stated that it will not participate in the upcoming U.S., that is the United States-sponsored peace talks in Switzerland, aimed at ending the 15-month civil war between the Sudanese military and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, the paramilitary group. Nevertheless, the U.S. envoy for Sudan, Thomas Perillo, has insisted that the talks will go on ahead despite the military absence, describing the discussions as principally military in nature, aiming to achieve a ceasefire and enable humanitarian assistance. It is worth noting that previous peace agreements between the two sides have so far failed. Here is more.
The government has sought assurances that discussion would focus on implementing the existing Jeddah Agreement signed in May to facilitate humanitarian action to meet the needs of civilians.
We will move forward with every effort possible with our international partners to reach an action plan, a concrete action plan about how we can advance that cessation of violence and the full humanitarian access and a monitoring and enforcement mechanism. These are long past due. We will continue to build forward. We could do more together if SAF commits to arriving with the kind of delegation that can make decisions.
It also stated the government should be represented by all its components, not just the military, and rejected the participation of new observers.
Tens of millions of Sudanese face either full-on starvation or acute hunger. There are more refugees and displaced people than the entire population of Switzerland, just from Sudan alone right now.
The U.S. has reportedly described the talks as primarily military in nature, aimed at achieving ceasefire and facilitating humanitarian aid. Previous peace agreements between the two sides have failed.
The message from the Sudanese people has been clear. They want the international community to do more on humanitarian aid and access. They want the international community to do more on pushing for a cessation of violence. And we have heard those cries from the Sudanese people in event after event.
The Northern Eastern African nation plugged into chaos in April last year when the tension between the military and notorious paramilitary group, the Rapid Support Forces, turned into open fighting in the capital, Khartoum, before spreading across the country. Talks brokered by the United States and Saudi Arabia are due to begin on Wednesday. The Rapid Support Forces has confirmed it will attend. A Sudanese government delegation met over the weekend with the U.S. officials in the Saudi coastal city of Jeddah in an attempt to have the military attend Wednesday, but no breakthrough was achieved. The conflict in Sudan has killed thousands of people and pushed many into starvation. More than 10.7 million people have been forced to flee their homes since the fighting began, according to the International Organization for Migration. Perez Kigo, GPS News.
And wildfires near Athens, Greece have forced hundreds to evacuate as over 500 firefighters battle the flames. The fire, which started in Varnavas, has burned around 6,600 hectares and damaged numerous homes. Residents now express distress, with one stating all of their property being consumed. The Greek government has mobilized the army and volunteers for assistance, while international aid is on the move as authorities warn of the ongoing extreme fire risk, urging public to heed evacuation orders as firefighters work to control the blaze.
Αυτό δεν βλέπει, είναι 15 χρονών, ένας είναι εδώ κατάκητος, ο άλλος πάλι θα κάουνε τα ζώα.
In Kenya, Paul Mackenzie, the leader of the Good News International Church, is currently on trial for manslaughter, facing serious allegations linked to one of the deadliest cult tragedies in history. The trial, which follows the discovery of over 400 bodies believed to be followers who starved to death, Under his directives, Mackenzie has pleaded not guilty to the charges that include murder, child torture, and terrorism. The trial, which includes over 90 other suspects, has kindled debates about the regulations of religious groups in Kenya. Here is a report.
In Mombasa, the trial of Paul Mackenzie, leader of the Good News International Church, is grabbing global attention. Charged with manslaughter, murder, child torture, and terrorism. Mackenzie's case is unprecedented in Kenya. The trial follows the tragic discovery of hundreds of bodies believed to be followers who served under his guidance. Mackenzie, who appeared frail in court but still influential among his followers, is facing charges alongside over 90 other suspects. The trial is not only focusing on the specific crimes but also highlighting a broader issue that needs for better oversight of religious group in Kenya.
The prosecution shall lead evidence showing how, in pursuit of the suicide pact, the accused persons had planned to have everyone in the church die from starvation or fasting, starting from children to their mothers and finally their fathers, in a false belief or religious victory thereafter.
Prosecutors are pursuing the case under law related to suicide pacts, while the Kenyan government is re-evaluating regulation for religious organizations. President William Ruto has called for a review to prevent such tragedies in the future, with recommendation for a mix of self-regulation and government supervision for religious groups. As the trial continues, the world watches closely, hoping for justice and a more secure future for those seeking solace in faith. Reporting from GBS News, Joy Kuria.
Well, there's more coming from Kenya as the Kenya Aviation Workers Union, KAWU, plans to strike starting next Monday in response to a proposed lease of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, the JKIA India and Dani Airport Holdings. KAWU claims the deal will lead to job losses and has labeled it as unlawful unintended sale of the airport. The Kenyan government insists that the JKIA is not for sale. Hence, consideration for a public-private partnership for the airport upgrades, including a second runway and a terminal enhancement, should be done. This strike is expected to significantly disrupt operations at the JKIA and the national carrier Kenya Airways. Hundreds of Palestinian demonstrators assembled in London on Monday demanding a ceasefire in Gaza and an end to the United Kingdom arms sales to Israel. Protesters holding signs like Free Palestine expressing outrage over the ongoing violence, with one activist lamenting, and I quote, "It's been 10 months of massacre after massacre." The rally coincides with nearly a year of conflict following Hamas' attack on Israel on October 7th, the year of 2023, leading to a significant casualties. The United Nations experts have warned of a humanitarian crisis in the region, while protesters have urged immediate action to stop the violence and promote peace.
Stop arming Israel! Stop arming Israel! Stop arming Israel! Brothers and sisters, as Lucia said,
Israel must cease subverting UK politics. Let's be clear. They provide money, bribery to create puppets. Tommy Robinson, alias Tommy Yaxley Moron, or Tommy Todd, is one of them. He's paid 10 grand a month. Nigel Farage of the fake Freedom Party, Reform, and servile Keir Starmer are all Israeli puppets.
Here today because it's been 10 months of massacre after massacre, 10 months of genocide, 10 months of a continued 76-year ethnic cleansing. And so we're here to tell the government and Keir Starmer, even this being a new government, they have to know and they have to realise that we have not forgotten the hand and the part that you've played in the Palestinian genocide, in what's going on in Gaza. It's heartbreaking to watch. We have a role to come out and play here because what started as imperialism and colonialism in the UK must end in the UK. the latest massacre that killed 100 people in a school in Gaza actually came as a result of the funding of the US. They also recognized that the bomb was a US weapon, and it destroyed every single body. There was no one recognizable body found in that school. They were all shattered. They had to end up putting them in bags, 70 kilos for an adult and 18 kilos for a child.
And these settlers, they hijack our religion. They're not speaking out in the Jewish name at all. And we are here to demonstrate this. We'll come out again and again until our Jewish message is heard.
Allow certain governments, certain states to destroy all what we built. Action! Action! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now! Ceasefire now!
Now moving on to the matters of the United States, Celine Dion has strongly condemned the use of her iconic song, My Heart Will Go On, at a rally of Donald Trump at J.D. Vance in Montana. The artist management and record label released a statement disapproving the unauthorized usage and made it clear that Dion does not endorse this or any similar use of her music. Joy Courier with more.
Celine Dion has publicly denounced the use of her famous song My Heart Will Go On at a rally for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance in Montana. In a statement released on social media, Dion's management team, along with her record label Sony Music Entertainment Canada, expressed their disapproval for the song's unauthorized use. The statement emphasized that neither Dion or her team authorized the use of her music, image, or performance for the political event. This isn't the first time Trump's campaign has faced backlash from the artists using their music without permission. Over the years, several prominent musicians, including Rihanna, the Rolling Stone, and the Prince Estate, has voiced their objection to Trump using their songs. Dion's statement comes shortly after her return to the stage at the 2024 Paris Olympics, where she performed. After the performance, she expressed her joy at being back at the stage and is celebrating the reliance of the athletes. While U.S. politicians often have legal leeway to use the song at the rallies, artists like Dion are increasingly taking a stand ensuring their work isn't used without proper consent. Reporting from JBS News, Joy Courier.
Guinea National Transition Council has made public a new draft constitution that proposes significant changes to the country's governance structure, including the introduction of presidential term limits. This draft, which is said to be voted on before the end of the year, aims to facilitate a return of a constitutional rule following a period of military governance. It also includes progressive measures from the 2020 Constitution, including the banning of the death penalty and the female genital mutilation. Peris Kigo with a report.
The new draft constitution, which was proposed 13 days ago, has been made public, limiting leaders to 2 terms. It imposes a strict 2-term limit for the presidency, each for 5 years. It has paved the way for the bauxite and iron ore producing West African nation to return to constitutional rule. The draft stipulates that anyone arrested, detained, or charged must be informed of the reasons for his or her arrest. But there is a confusion about the status of General Mamadi Doumbouya, who has led the country since a coup in 2021. While the transition charter says he will not be allowed to stand for the president in future elections, his reference is not included in the draft constitution, suggesting he may be allowed to stand. Periskego, GBS News.
And that international news brings us to our very first break. We have more lined up for you shortly after the break. Topics you can't afford to miss. Don't move an inch. We'll be right back with even more as you stay tuned with us.
We have newly-wedded couples in the house. They are going to tell us about their journey.
So for me, mimi nilikuwa msumbufu since I was young. So my mom was tough on me. Kabisa.
So for me, I feel wazazi wangu wote walikuwa so tough, walikuwa so strict. Hakukuwa na the softer one, like walikuwa kimoja.
After high school sasa unajua mimi nilikuwa nimeambiwa kuna ka college fulani mahali utaenda usome. But for me nilikuwa najua acha niende nitafute tu dem. Juu sana chama za shule.
Of course ingeenda CU, nilikuwa naenda enter. So hizo ndio vitu mbili zinilivutia sana kuja IYF.
Now mmekutana hivyo. Mlijua itakuja kuwa hivi ama what happened after that?
Personally nilikuwa nimeshachoka na story na dating na relationship. Nilikuwa nataka kukuwa anti mado.
Pesa. Hii video imeweza kutrend sana. Ningependa sana ichezwe. At least tuanzie from there.
Hello, boys and girls. How are you today? Because I am very, very happy. So we are on Kids Mind on GBS TV.
Today we're going to make ta-da! A boba tea letter set.
We are moving to singing class.
Skinamarinky dinky ding, skinamarinky doo. I love you. The tortoise and the hare. Friends, do you know about this story?
Now you're finished to make.
Enjoy yourselves, everybody.
Everywhere, GBS. Welcome back and thank you for staying on board with us. You are watching the Ambassador GBS Global and we are glad to have you join us today. Now moving on, Dr. Adam Hamaway, an American surgeon, has alleged that the Israeli Defense Forces IDF are deliberately targeting children in Gaza with sniper fire. In August's 6th interview, he described the precise injuries, particularly the head and the chest, suggesting that these were random but intentional acts by the trained marksmen. Dr. Hamaway, who volunteered in Gaza for 20 days, stated that many victims were shot in critical areas to ensure they did not survive. His claims are supported by over 100 doctors who have observed similar patterns. The IDF has denied these allegations, asserting that they only target combatants and comply with the international law. The conflict has intensified since the Hamas attack on October 7th, resulting in a significant casualties and a growing humanitarian crisis concern.
The worst thing that I've seen in Gaza is it's the combination of everything. It's the killing that's happening, the targeting of civilians with impunity and consistently and systematically. This is happening on a daily basis. It's not accidental. It's not just targeting of combatants and fighters. That's all a facade to what's happening. Just the sheer numbers of the casualties speaks about it. The number and the consistency of all the people witnessing this. You know, every humanitarian worker who's gone there, every doctor who's been there, and we're talking now, you know, at least from the United States, at least 100 doctors have been there, and some of us multiple times, and different locations throughout Gaza at different times, and are all consistently saying the same thing. So snipers in Gaza is a constant thing. The number one killer in Gaza is the bombs. It's the strikes that are hitting there. But civilians are hit by snipers and gunshot wounds all the time. And the evidence that it's snipers and not just random bullets is, again, the consistency. I mean, every once in a while, just like every part of the body, you will get someone who's shot in the face or shot in the head. However, when you see a series of people who are consistently, precisely shot, not just in the head, but in the head or in the chest, and these are often children, then it's no longer accidental. But I took care of multiple gunshot wounds to the face of not just adults but children as well. And those are the ones that are surviving. And again, some of my colleagues have seen many of those who don't survive and leave the emergency room. But one of the last cases I did in Gaza was of someone who was shot right through the mouth, came out right behind his ear, and survived, and that's why I was taking care of him. Yesterday, I operated on a boy, 14 years old, here in the West Bank. This is not just Gaza. Gaza is now just, people are beginning to see what's happening there because it's so bad and so much more. But this has been happening through Gaza and the West Bank for years, and we've heard about it. Now we're just beginning to open our eyes because it's not just Palestinians saying that, because we tend to discount this. It's the whole world is beginning to see the reality. So the sniper who is shooting at children, has the option, first of all, to shoot or not to shoot. And a sniper can accurately also, decide where this target is. But what we saw in Gaza that was different is that many of them were shot in the chest, and then after they were shot in the chest and they're down, they're shot in the head to make sure they don't survive. And you could tell, again, the angles that they were coming in. Often they're dead center of mass. That's how a sharpshooter's target is trained to shoot. You're actually trained to shoot at the center of mass, not at the head. But once they're down on the ground, they make sure that person doesn't get up, and you always have a choice. And again, this is systematic killing rather than any kind of military operation to take out combatants. 12 years old, 14 years old.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas arrived in Moscow on Monday for a working visit. The Kremlin press service reported that the Abbas would meet the Russian President Vladimir Putin on 13th of August, as both presidents will discuss on the situation in the Middle East in light of the second ongoing escalation in the Palestinian-Israel conflict and the unprecedented humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Abbas' visit comes amidst heightened tensions in the region, with fears of a broader conflict as Iran and Hezbollah threaten to do retaliation against Israel. Following the recent escalation, after his meetings in Moscow, Abbas plans to travel to Turkey for further discussion with the President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, reflecting a continued effort to garner regional support in addressing the crisis in Gaza. The International Committee of the Red Cross, ICRC, has expressed grave concerns over the widespread disregard for the Geneva Conventions, particularly in the conflict zones. ICRC President Mirjana Spoljaric highlighted the urgent need for a renewed commitment to international humanitarian law, stating that the conventions are increasingly being ignored by both states and non-state actors in armed conflicts. Spoljaric emphasized that the conventions, which were established to protect civilians, detainees, and wounded soldiers, are facing significant challenges. She noted that international humanitarian law is under strain and often manipulated to justify violence rather than protect the lives. The ICRC has documented over 120 conflicts globally, a six-fold increase since the Convention's 50th anniversary in 1999, underscoring the heightened necessity for adherence to these rules.
Disregarded, undermined to justify violence. More than ever, the world must recommit to this robust protective framework for armed conflict, one that follows the premise of protecting life instead of justifying death, of international relations is moving from multilateralism and cooperation agreements to defense spending and conflict preparedness. You are either with us or against us. Such an approach to foreign relations lacks emphasis on the devastating human cost and economic setback the conflict among the most powerful militaries can cause. It's with all this in mind that I ask myself today a basic but very vital question. Where are the peacemakers?
Now, moving on to Iran, in a shocking development, Iran's Vice President Mohammad Javad Zarif has announced his resignation just 11 days after being appointed to the position. This sudden move has sent ripples through the political landscape of Iran, raising questions about the stability of President Masoud Pezeshkian's newly formed government. Let's get the report.
Zarif, a well-known moderate and Iran former foreign minister, revealed his decision on the social media platform X. He expressed regret that he has not been able to meet expectation in his short time as vice president, citing dissatisfaction with the composition of President Pezeshkian's cabinet as a key reason for his departure. Reports suggest that at least 7 of the 19 ministers nominated by Pezeshkian were not Zarif preferred choices. The new cabinet, which was presented to parliament on Sunday, includes one woman who has faced criticism from Iran reformist camp. Many were concerned about the inclusion of conservative from the previous administration for the late President Ibrahim Raisi. This resignation marks the second significant challenge for President Pezeshkian since he took office at the end of July, just days ago, where the killing of Palestinian militant leader Ismail Haniyeh. With Zarif's departure, the future of this negotiation now hangs in the balance. In his farewell message, Zarif hinted that he would be returning to the academia and stepping back from Iran's domestic politics. Reporting from GBS News, Joy Korea.
The United Nations Secretary Antonio Guterres has urged for reforms at the United Nations Security Council due to its underrepresentation in a changing world. Guterres, who spoke at the UN Security Council Assembly, raised a concern on the African continent, which has no permanent seat at the council, pointing out at the continent's poorly representation. And here are the details.
The fact that Africa continues to be manifest.
The United Nations Secretary General has urged the United Nations Security Council to reform its outdated structure and offer Africa a permanent seat at the table, stating that the continent is poorly represented at the Council, keeping them off from participating in the important decision-making on the world's security matters.
Africa is underrepresented in global governance structures, from the Security Council to international financial institutions, but overrepresented in the very challenges these structures are designed to address. Conflicts, emergencies, and geopolitical divisions have an outsized impact.
Addressing the Council during
African
a high-level
content.
debate, the Secretary General pointed
And this
out that
Council's agenda demonstrates this. Nearly half of all country-specific or regional conflicts on your agenda concern Africa. They are often exacerbated by greed for Africa's resources, which are vital to the global economy, and further spread and aggravated by the interference of external actors. The message is clear: there can be no global security without African security.
addressing the Council during a high-level debate, the Secretary General pointed out that the composition of the United Nations Security Council has failed to keep pace with a changing world.
It runs counter to the principle of sovereign equality of states and calls for the urgency to reform this institution to reflect the world as it is now rather than what it was nearly 80 years ago.
According to Guterres, he stated that the 15 members of the United Nations Security Council consist of 5 permanent members with veto powers, which includes China, France, Russia, United States, and the United Kingdom, while the non-permanent seats are allocated regionally. The 10 seats includes the 3 seats for African states, 2 each for Asia Pacific, Latin America, and the Caribbean, Western Europe and other states, and 1 for Eastern Europe.
It is therefore fundamentally important to address the issue of non-representation and underrepresentation of Africa in both the permanent and non-permanent categories of the Security Council, respectively. The current lack of representation in the permanent category does not reflect the current global landscape, and it is fundamental to consider the structural changes for its rectification. Additionally, it is significant to evaluate the Security Council's performance and legitimacy to ensure its effectiveness in addressing global challenges.
Olympic boxing champion Imane Khelif returned home to a warm welcome on Monday as Algerians rallied around her in the case of international scrutiny misconception about her sex. Khelif became a focal point of attention after her opponent, Italian boxer Angela Carini, withdrew from their match, leading to the unfounded speculation about Khelif's gender. However, Algerians rallied around her, defending her against the criticism and celebrating her achievement. Khelif, who won gold in women's 69-kilogram boxing, shared her joy, stating that it was her dream for 8 years so far, and the champions are scheduled to meet President Abdelmajid Tebboune later this week.
Of course, the Olympic Games is a big event in the world. The Olympic Games is the highest level. It was like a war. I gave my all mentally. I was mentally and physically prepared for the competition. Thanks to the Almighty who helped me win this medal.
ربي اللي يساعدني باش نتوج بالميدالية هذه. الحمد لله هذا ما إلا توفيق من عند الله عز وجل.
No News brings us to the end of our Ambassador GBS Global. It's been wonderful having you on board, joining us to the very end. Here at the Ambassador, where we continue to bring you the latest updates and the global developments as you keep it locked with us. I've been your Ambassador, Jennifer Makau, and I'm looking forward to meeting you here at the Ambassador tomorrow, same time, same place, at 1 p.m. I wish you all the most beautiful and a wonderful afternoon. Keep it safe and see you all tomorrow.